7:08. Chair declares the special town meeting in order. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Gentlemen, please remove your hats. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. And let us begin. Article 1. Mr. Williams moves that the town vote to approve the reductions in fiscal year 2023 operational budget for various town departments as printed in the attached Appendix A, that's the green form, for a total budget reduction in the amount of $81,050, and that the sum of $33,422 be raised and appropriated from the tax levy, and the sum of $68,808 be transferred from free cash to supplement funds. Previously appropriated under Article 8 of the June 2022 annual town meeting for a new fiscal year 2023 budget total of $4,206,867. For purposes general government, $795,634. Public safety, $1,521,647. Public works, $874,400. State and other assessments, $82,073. Indirect costs, $689,250. Debt, $243,863. Total general fund and operational budget, $4,206,867. Motion made by Mr. Williams. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Young. Any discussion on the article? Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, please go ahead.
All right, great. Everybody can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Name, address.
Okay. Susan Rainey, 10 Williamsville Road, Chair of the Finance Committee. Most, if not all of you, should have a handout. We are not doing the PowerPoint presentation because the projector doesn't work. So please read along. Your guide to the fiscal 2023 operating budget and what we need to do. Municipal Finance 101, the key to understanding our operating budget, it must balance. That means revenues have to equal expenses. Well, if our budgets are balanced, then what is free cash? Free cash is the money we have left over from prior years. We have spent less than we budgeted. It's our savings. The State Division of Local Services looks at our financial statements and they tell us, they certify to us how much money we really have left over. And in June of this year, our free cash was over $800,000. 8% of our operating budget, and this is great because our fiscal policies dictate that we want it to be between 3 and 5% of our operating budget. But remember, we got this 8% thanks to ARPA. So why is free cash great? High free cash helps our bond rating stay at AA+. The only rate higher is AAA. Towns like Dover and Weston are AAA. Bond ratings are like credit scores for cities and towns. We get favorable interest rates on borrowing, like for fire trucks. We do not want our bond rating to suffer any more than you want your credit score to drop. How did we get here in this good place? Disciplined budgeting. All right, so what is free cash good for? We use it to pay cash for one-time expenses. That means we don't have to borrow. These one-time expenses are like ambulances and dump trucks and plow trucks and extra road repairs and special projects. We can also use it for our other reserve accounts, more emergency funds for rainy days. We do not want to use free cash for things on our operating budget. Why? Because that is like buying your groceries groceries and paying rent with your savings. That means we are living beyond our means and our savings are going to go to zero. That means also that our bond rating, our credit score, is headed south. And yes, we've used free cash to pay for things on our operating budget before for reasons that are well known and understood, but the fiscal 23 operating budget that we approved in June did not use any free cash. But wait, this new budget uses free cash to balance. Yep. At the June 22 annual town meeting, voters voted for our recommended lower Quabbin budget assessment. 2 other towns felt the same way, and Quabbin went back to the drawing board. But the changes they came back with were minuscule. $32,000 reduction to a $5.5 million ask proposed. But at the August 22 special town meeting, voters voted for the higher Quabbin budget assessment without considering how it would be paid for, and blew $183,000 hole in our previously balanced operating budget. We had voted no. One other town also voted no, and that would have meant that Quabbin would have had to go back to the drawing board again. So, where are we going to find $183,000? The good news is that we found an extra $33,000 because our actual new growth revenues exceeded our budget estimate. Bad news, we had to find another $150,000 to make the 23 budget balance. And what our select board has proposed is a budget that both contains cuts and uses free cash to make it balanced. Let's take a look. Wait, why did we use some free cash to plug this hole? Because all cuts means we would have laid off personnel and cut the few services we have, like road repairs, office hours, as well as police and fire. And because it's too late for timeline to ask for a Prop 2.5 override. Talk about that a little more later. The changes to the fiscal year 23 budget approved at the June 22 annual town meeting. This is the summary. The revenue increase was new growth, 33,422 that I mentioned. Our net expenses cuts is $81.50, and the use of free cash is $68,808. The next slide you have is the detail of the budget cuts. The total cuts are a little over $92,000. Of particular note here is we have some cuts to police and fire. We've been assured by the police and fire chiefs that this will result in no cuts to services. We have a $20,000 cut in our building commissioner budget because we hired a part-timer instead of a full-timer. The budget increases. We have a new town administrator coming on board. That means the new town administrator gets a raise. Our liability insurance also went up $6,000. So the total increases is almost $11,000. When you net those out, you get the $81,050. So what's the worst that could happen? Heads up. Our Quabbin assessment is our biggest budget line item. It is 60 cents of every dollar. At the August 22 special town meeting, voters increased our Quabbin assessment over last year by 8%. But without an override, our tax revenues only increased by 2.5% per year. Year after year, the Quabbin assessment has increased and will continue to increase by more than 2.5%. This is a structural deficit, one that is built in, it is baked in the cake. If we keep using free cash to balance our operating budget, we will run out of it in just a few years. No more capital purchases. No more AA+ bond rating. Higher interest rates, if anyone will lend to us, and cuts to personnel and services will be next. What do you mean run out? Well, look at what happened this year. We started with $806,289. In June, we took $404,500 of it for capital expenses, like our capital plan And we put $50,000 in our stabilization accounts, and we spent another $54,650 on unpaid bills that rolled in after the fiscal year ended but had to be paid. They were anticipated, but it was a timing issue, which is why they had to dealt with at the June town meeting. We have since been treated to two more late expenses, $19,000 and $107.40, and a $10,000 town center expense that all have to be paid out of free cash. And now we are going to use $68,808 to balance our operating budget. This leaves us with under $200,000 for the start of fiscal year '24. This is less than 2% of our operating budget, and it violates our own fiscal policies. More importantly, because of these budget cuts, we expect no meaningful additional free cash to result for fiscal year '24. But our fiscal year '24 capital plan is to spend over $500,000 on needed equipment. Yeah. What if we need free cash to balance the fiscal '24 budget? All right, what should I do? What should we do? That's up to you, the voters. Tonight, your finance committee sees no alternative to this budget short of layoffs, and in that context alone, recommends this budget. You vote this budget down and it does not pass tonight, then we will need another town meeting with the possibilities of cuts in personnel and services, a Prop 2.5 override option, borrowing because we are going to need to manage cash flow in the interim, and a delay in setting the fiscal '23 tax rate, which means delays in revenues to the town. Tomorrow, want to meet Quabbin's needs? Get town-wide trash service? Relief from 64% increases in electric bills through the regional utility organization? Your road repaired? Anything else? Then we need you to propose how we will pay for it. Grant money? Cuts in free cash? Might work today, but all are unsustainable in the long term. That leaves an override. But will you vote for one at town meeting and at the ballot box? And organize to get out the vote for it to pass? For those of you who don't want your taxes to increase, you are looking at a downward spiral in terms of the few town services you get and the quality of those services, because although costs are rising, more and more of your taxes are going to plummet. I suggest you think about what that will do to your property values. This is terrible. I love Hubbardston. How can I help? Come to our open committee meetings and tell us what you think. Give us your ideas. Volunteer to serve on our committees and tell us what you think. Help us come up with workable solutions. Come to town meetings and tell us what you think. Vote at every election, and Facebook doesn't Thank you.
Thank you. So recommendation by the Finance Committee. Any further discussion on the article? Any further discussion on the article? And the ma'am, please step forward, address the chair, state your name and your address.
Good evening. Susan Brady, Root Road, 15, Hubbardston.
Please.
Thank you. What can you do about controlling what's happening out at Quabbin? It is my understanding that the population of youth is going down. Why is the budget going up? If you have less people, why is the budget bigger? And maybe this isn't the forum to ask this question, but there's no control.
Thank you. Ms. Lane, you want to comment?
All right. The forum to ask that is at the budget meetings at Quabbin that will come up in March. That's when the public hearing on the budget is. All of their hearings, all of their meetings are public. And if you go on the Quabbin website, you can see when the budget subcommittee meets. We try to go to those meetings. We try to work with other finance committees. The budget process for Quabbin has been thorny and impenetrable, and it is a process as much of herding cats as anything else to try to get the 5 towns to cooperate. That is our goal for this year. But ultimately, the budget that comes back is from the school. Your finance committee and the finance committees of the towns don't have any input in setting that budget. You do have school committee members from Hubbardston and from the other towns, and you can reach out to them since they have votes on the budget and on other matters. And so I would encourage you to become active with the school committee members and certainly communicate what you find to the finance committee, to us. We'd be very interested in finding out what you learn as we do the same ourselves.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the article? Sir.
Thank you. Tim Hawley, 35 Mount Jefferson Road. First of all, I commend the Finance Committee and the Select Board for being able to figure out this budget conundrum that we're in. I agree, Susan, it's certainly not sustainable. But I did want to just mention also that part of the formula that Quabbin uses to determine what each town share is based on the number of students. And the number of students from Hubbardston is going up by 11% from what it was last year.
Thank you, sir. Any further discussion on the article?
Susan Flagg, 9 Evergreen Road.
Please proceed.
Just a passing comment, a big portion of this town is owned by the MDC. At one time, I think it was 40%. They ripped everything down. This used to be a much more industrial place in the 1900s. There was an article, when they did that, that said that they would keep up with some of the value of the land that they destroyed. I have not heard in the last 10 years or so anybody petitioning the MDC. And because they own so much of our land and the water, it's something that somebody needs to look into. Because there was a deed in the 1910 when they started taking it that said that. And it's one of those things you just don't think of because you know Hubbardston's all the same. Hubbardston at one time had a lot of factories and they ripped them all down. And the value of the land was supposedly they were going to pay to some of it. And they managed to squirm out of it for quite a while. It needs to be looked into.
Thank you, ma'am. Further discussion?
Deborah Chamberlain, 7 Laurel Street.
Proceed, please.
I'm also a school committee member and probably one of the most unpopular people in the room tonight. But I'm very proud of our school district, I really am. And we do understand the impacts that it has on our towns. We do listen, we do try. However, we don't tell the town how to run their finances, nor should the towns tell us what it costs to educate your children. There's a lot of things, and I know this is town meeting. It wasn't me. It was not said to be offensive. I'm sorry if I offended anyone. That was not the way. What I'm trying to say is we put a lot of thought into our budget and consideration. We all pay taxes here. We all know we need services and we deserve good roads and all of the things the town needs. But there's not enough money, and there's not a simple way to explain the Quabbin budget on the floor this evening. It's a very complicated budget. I've been on the committee for 9 years and I'm still learning. All of our meetings are open. We're now recording them. Our budget process starts in January. Our line item budget is all on the website. Any information is available. I'll be happy to talk to anybody anytime. If I don't have the answers, we'll get them. But we don't want this to be an adversarial experience for the towns or the school districts. I hope you will listen to the advice of Susan and get involved, and that's what we need. And I would appreciate voting and supporting the recommendations made tonight. And I'll be happy, again, I didn't mean to offend anybody by my comment, I just misspoke. It didn't come out the way I intended, so I apologize. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Further discussion? Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your cards. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your cards. 1, 2. 2 in the negative. Thank you. And the article passes. Article 2. To see if the town will vote to authorize payment of prior fiscal year invoices as follows. Palmer Paving Corporation, the amount of $107.40. Scanlon and Associates, the amount of $19,000. Let me see. Ms. Young moves that the town vote to authorize payment of prior fiscal year invoices for Palmer Paving Corporation and Scanlon and Associates, and to meet that appropriation that the sum of $19,107.40 be transferred from free cash or take any action relative thereof. Motion by Ms. Young. Is there a second? Seconded by Mr. Williams. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising the cards. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your cards. And the article passes unanimously. Next, Article 3. Article 3, to see if the town will vote to transfer from free cash the sum of $10,000 to pay the engineering corporation for construction phase services to support the town through construction of the town center transportation infrastructure improvements or take any action relative thereof. So the motion is made by Mr. Walker. I move that the town vote to authorize payment of a fiscal year 2023 invoice for the engineering corporation for construction phase services for the town center project in the amount of $10,000. And to meet that appropriation, that the sum of $10,000 be transferred from free cash or take any action relative thereof. Motion by Mr. Walker. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Young. Is there any discussion on the article? Chair hears none. All in favor, please signify by raising your cards. Thank you. Those opposed, please signify by raising your cards. 1, 2. Ma'am, is your card raised? Sir? Ma'am, I'm sorry. Card raised, card raised. Card raised, 3, 4. 4 in the negative. Thank you. And the article passes. Madam Town Administrator, anything on your end? Nothing? You're all set? Mr. Chairman, you all set? Thank you very much. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, the time is 7:32, and the chair declares the special town meeting adjourned.